Hey guys, welcome to this week's segment of The Wrap-Up. I'm Jenna Kowalski. On this week's episode, we will be talking about the MLB, the NFL, college football, and the NHL. Now here's Jake to start things off with the recap of the World Series.
Thanks, Jenna. I'm Jake McDonald here to recap the World Series. For the first time in 108 years, the Chicago Cubs are World Series champions. That's right. Last Wednesday in Game 7 of the World Series, the Cubbies defeated the Cleveland Indians 8-7 in 10 innings. This game was, in my opinion, one of the greatest games of all time. It had virtually everything: clutch hitting, questionable managerial decisions, and even a rain delay after the 9th inning. When the game was tied at 6, a 17-minute rain delay pushed the game into the early hours of Thursday morning. Chicago didn't wait long, though, scoring 2 runs in the 10th inning on a Ben Zobrist double and a Miguel Montero single. Cleveland added 1 run in the bottom of the 10th, but it wasn't enough. So celebrate, Cubs fans, because the curse is over. Say goodbye to the Black Cats. Now we will have to wait a few months before pitchers and catchers report for next season. Now we're going to kick it back to the desk for Anthony and Justin's NFL segment.
Thanks, Jake. I'm Justin Rodriguez.
And I'm Anthony Palmieri.
And let's talk about some NFL. Week 9's over, and there's 2 games that I really want to talk about. The first one being a classic rivalry game between the Steelers and the Ravens. It's another game that a lot of people picked the Steelers to win, myself being one of them. And they didn't come out with a win again, and I can't tell you what's going on with them. Big Ben just seemed absent for most of the game, really, until the 4th quarter.
Yeah, well, history shows that Big Ben is not good against the Ravens. In 14 of his last 18 games against the Ravens, he has a touchdown pass or less. That's including the playoffs. And throughout his career, he only has a 9-9 record in 18 games versus the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, Antonio Brown went the first half for the first time in a long time, I suppose, without a reception at all. And to not get him involved, your number one weapon, I mean, I guess there's a good reason why you wouldn't win. But it was just a very weird game, and if you missed it, the whole game was basically the Steelers didn't show up to the 4th quarter. The Ravens threw a 95-yard touchdown to Mike Wallace, and they blocked a punt and returned that for a touchdown. And that seemed like the whole game. I watched the whole thing. It's kind of what I saw. But let's talk about another game that I wanted to talk about. It's the Broncos versus the Raiders. And the Raiders have been doing great this season. And I like that they're doing great. Coming from a franchise who hasn't been anything for a while, they've been rebuilding for years. And there's a good chance we might see them in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, Jack Del Rio has really turned that team around, along with their GM McKenzie, doing big things in Raiderland right now.
Yeah, and the Broncos game, I mean, kudos to Trevor Siemian. He didn't do the best, but the Raiders were able to get into his face a lot. Khalil Mack forcing a fumble and sacking him twice. It was a good game overall. I mean, kind of like the Broncos were expected to win again, but it was good to see an upset like that, and it's good to see the Raiders be, 7-2 now?
7-2.
That's amazing.
Take control of their division. Very good.
If we're going to talk about Derek Carr, let's talk about some MVP candidates.
Let's do that.
I'm going to take the favorite of Tom Brady. I mean, I don't really like to. I mean, he's the favorite. Just some of the stats since he started. I mean, he's undefeated as of right now. He had a bye week this weekend coming off week 9. His completion percentage is 73%, 1,319 yards, 12 touchdowns, no interceptions. The team's 7-1. The one loss they had was against the Bills. Brady got his revenge in that game. Brady's the favorite, but here's my thing with that. You take Tom Brady out of that offense, they still win games.
They went 3-1 at the beginning of the year without him.
And I think a lot of those wins have to do with their tight ends. I mean, Rob Gronkowski has the franchise record now for the Patriots with 69 touchdowns. So, I mean, Tom Brady is the favorite to win, but I would really like to see someone else win.
Yeah, I'm going to throw 2 names at you, Derek Carr and Matt Ryan.
Absolutely.
Compared to Cam Newton at this time last year, Cam Newton, last year's MVP, Carr has 17 touchdowns, Ryan has 23, Newton only had 15 at this time. Carr has 3 interceptions, Ryan has 4, Cam had 9 last year. And their quarterback ratings, just Carr has 99 rating right now, Ryan has the 119 rating, and this time last year, Cam had 84 rating. So better numbers than Cam had this time last year.
Absolutely, and if you're going to talk about Derek Carr, perhaps his biggest argument game so far for the season to be an MVP, or an MVP candidate really, more or less. His Tampa Bay game in Week 8 last week, his team broke a record for penalties in yards. It was like over 200 yards in penalties, and he still finds a way to win the game for him, even though that his team's really honestly not helping him too much. He threw for 513 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he ends up helping them win the game. Amari Cooper obviously had a part to play with it too. I'm not going to not give him credit, but they won a lot of games on the road. They were like 5-0 on the road. They might be 6-0 now after last week. It's
especially traveling the East Coast.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
especially hard.
In weird time zones for them. And if you're going to talk about Matt Ryan, his Week 8 performance against the Green Bay Packers, I mean, that team's kind of been struggling a little bit at depth, the Green Bay Packers, that is. But Matt Ryan throws 80% completion in that game, and he wins the game with 30 seconds left. I mean, those are two quarterbacks, really, honestly. I would really like to see Derek Carr win it, coming from the Raiders, who haven't really been good at anything for a while, and now they're doing great.
Absolutely.
It would be a nice change-up from Tom Brady. So that's all we have for this. Now let's go to college football with Matt.
Thanks, guys. I'm Matt, and the first college football playoff rankings have finally been announced. And right now, the biggest thing for fans to understand is that these first rankings don't mean a thing, with 3 more weeks left to play in the regular season and the conference championship games. However, I'm going to talk about it like they do matter, because why not? The 2 biggest surprises in the first rankings are a 2-loss Penn State Nittany Lions team ranked at number 12, despite having just a 2% chance of winning out and winning the Big Ten title game. However, personally, even if that does happen, I can't see the playoff committee giving a spot to a 2-loss conference champion, regardless of the conference. The other major shocker is a 1-loss Texas A&M team sneaking into that 4th spot over the 5th-ranked undefeated Washington Huskies. Although Washington fans got the justice they felt they deserved when Mississippi State knocked off the Aggies this past weekend. The only other upset this weekend was in the Big 12 as TCU clobbered Baylor 62-22. However, the 10th-ranked Nebraska and 13th-ranked LSU both lost to higher-ranked opponents. This coming weekend sadly only features one matchup with 2 teams ranked in the college playoff, the 17th-ranked Baylor and the 14th-ranked Oklahoma. The Sooners seem to be all but eliminated from playoff contention since the Big 12 doesn't play a conference championship game. However, they still have a chance for a New Year's 6. The only team undefeated in conference games in the Big 12 is Oklahoma, and they're trying to hold off 2 one-loss conference teams in West Virginia and Oklahoma State. However, a matchup with both teams loom in the near future for the Sooners. Baylor, however, will need a seemingly impossible amount of help to top the conference as they too try to keep their New Year's 6 dream alive. With Baker Mayfield as hot as he's been in the past few weeks and Baylor coming off that absolutely defensive embarrassment, I can't see the visiting Bears defeating Oklahoma. Even though we do still have a lot of time before the 4 playoff teams are announced, right now I'm going to give my way too early playoff prediction for the end of the year. In the 4th spot, the Pac-12 undefeated champions Washington Huskies. I love the offense of this team led by Heisman hopeful Jake Browning as they lead the nation in scoring, averaging 48 points per game. At number 3, the future ACC champion Clemson Tigers. With 3 easily winnable games remaining, the Tigers are looking at a matchup with either Virginia Tech or North Carolina in the ACC title game, but really I can't see either team topping the Tigers in this. At number 2, the future Big Ten champions Michigan Wolverines, led by another Heisman hopeful Jabril Peppers, who played 59 snaps in 7 different positions, 4 of those being on offense, which he normally doesn't play in last week's win against Maryland. The number 1 spot is really the unanimous choice around the country, the SEC future champions Alabama Crimson Tide, who really seem to be on a whole nother level compared to the rest of the NCAA. December 4th is the day that we'll learn who this year's top 4 will be. However, that right there is who I believe deserve the spots as of right now. Now we're going to kick it to Jack with some NHL talk.
Thanks, Matt. I'm Jack, and welcome to the NHL segment. Montreal, Rangers, Chicago, and surprisingly to me, the Oilers are at the top of their respective divisions. St. Louis, Pens, and the Caps are also hot in their tails, looking good for playoff contention, but it's still a very early season. Right now in the 500 club, we got the Flyers, LA Kings, and San Jose Sharks. Since we had the Kings and Sharks in the playoffs last year, maybe the Flyers can too. Fingers crossed, folks. In other news, referee Dean Morton was struck in the head by defenseman Kevin Klein after taking a puck to the head. He is okay, thankfully. Now, we take it back to the desk with Jenna.
Thanks, Jack. That wraps up this week's episode of The Wrap Up. I'm Jenna Kowalski, and thanks for watching.